back, everybody. Today is Wednesday, June the 7th, and I am out here in Big Bend National Park. You can probably see some of the beautiful scenery through the windows as I drive throughout this location. Today, I haven't even pitched my tent yet. I basically arrived in the park, went to my campsite, and put some window screens on so I could roll the windows down, allow the car to cool off, and I enjoyed an entire evening of the natural transitions between daytime and nighttime. That included all of the singing of the insects, and as an added bonus, sometime pretty late in the evening, early in the morning, there was a rainstorm complete with lightning and thunder, and I was right back here looking out of this expanse of glass that you see above me, and I could see the clouds lighting up, and the rain was starting to come down. And I remembered, even though I've got sunscreens on, which are basically just like a fine mesh, my windows are open. So I had to come through the cabin just right up the middle here. I thought about getting out of the car, but it was already raining. So I came through the cabin to hit the ignition switch in the number of times that it requires to power up, the internal options of this car. And then I reached over to this side to roll up to hit the power up switches for the windows. And I did each window one at a time just to make sure that the screens weren't snagging. And I didn't really have a plan for this time frame. So, as a result, what I've really wanted to do is to take someone through what all Big Bend has been for me. It might not be the same for everybody else, because for everybody else, they may not remember all of the wildlife and nature variations that we used to have in this amazing park. And the same could be said probably globally. If you're listening to my video series, you'll hear that I had another recent loss in the family. And this time it was someone in my generation, my age classification, I guess you could call it, even though I really consider myself the same age as everybody else. We all are children working through a situation that we would call the human experience. Speaking of, I see someone pulled over at a rest area and they've got a bicycle out. So I have biked out here in Big Bend National Park. It was with a mountain bike, and I was just doing some street riding, and it was an attempt to try and cover more ground so that I could get more photographs. So, returning to the story, if you hear my series, you can hear that a lot of times I jump around in points in time, just like we're doing right now. And sometimes I don't return to the previous thought. And the transition of thought sometimes makes it so the words sound almost as selfish as could be. And that, sometimes some people would call it a Freudian slip. Other people might simply call it acknowledgement. I'm an only child, and I have never had the need to share any of my things, which really draws to attention that my perception of how resources work and how things are done and how much value we place on time is completely different from someone who has, let's say, 8 siblings or a total of whatever, a giant family, and who also has maybe not that much to go around. So there has to be sharing. So I can understand every variant. I just have not perceived every situation myself. For an example, I've never been separated at the border from my family who was just trying to make a living. However, I have been separated from my primary caregiver by another guardian who, frankly, could have ended my life on the day that this situation occurred. All of these things happened at a very young age for me in terms of what my trauma past and patterns were. And so for me to remain calm is almost a given, considering most of the times I'm not being ripped out of someone's arms with a yelling, toxic male type personality doing something that is jeopardizing the likelihood of survival. So some would call that a force that is here to kill, steal, or destroy. For the opposite end of the spectrum, there's me making videos talking about, well, I recently lost my cousin. And in some segments, what I say kind of jumps around between topics. And there are things where I know that I'm always aware that I'm ever aware that my cousin is the energy is still here, so much so that I'm considering this conversation like he's right here next to me. So today, without a plan, what I've considered doing because of how beautifully overcast it is to start out with my daily recommended workout. And today, that's about an hour's worth of running. And it's going to be low speed running. An hour of running at the most would, for me, cover about 4 miles. And that's, or possibly more. I shouldn't limit myself like that. So do you see how these thought processes occur? Here I am trying to share the insight of what exactly happens when we come to a place like this by presenting live thought. This isn't edited. It's not brought to you for the convenience purposes of it. It's brought to you because nobody taught me these things, and I've recognized in my own family what the health is going on is that some people are deferring all probability of survival to somebody else. They're not taking responsibility of what's going into their own hands, what's coming out of their own performance, what's coming out of their own production. So there's a song that I shared called Whisper. It talks about this concept by starting out asking, where did we go today and did we have a say? Maybe we all can choose, maybe no one would lose. So it starts out saying, what if someone like me wants to go to a place where they can run uninterrupted, except for maybe by the occasional crossing of paths with wildlife? What can possibly be wrong with that choice? And why would someone want to limit me from doing those things? Nobody wants to limit me from doing these things. However, there could be a fear, an inherent fear of coming out here. What if someone sees me running and I'm not doing good at it? What if someone isn't there to help me and I get injured? What if I have the wrong clothes? There's parts of my typical wardrobe that I bring with me usually, and I actually forgot it. But, maybe I didn't forget it. Maybe in this instance, as with almost every time we've been someplace, we have everything we need. The only variation of this fear, this illness, the only variant of this is what we perceive, and whether we have what we need or not, and whether we're afraid of what's in our proximity. One time at band camp, one time at this place itself, I walked into the woods with the group I was with. Suddenly we came across a bush that was full of life, full of bees, full of wasps, everything doing a job in there, collecting the pollen peacefully. You could hear the buzz of life. And for some reason, one of the persons in the party I was with got extremely upset. They were in fear of the sounds that were coming from this bush, possibly because they've got a past experience that they've had with wasps, bees, or whatever other variety, butterflies, whatever other variety of animal was in that bush. But you notice, I didn't name the butterflies as the thing that would cause the panic in this person. And as with following the typical pattern of circumstances, sure enough, this individual wasn't afraid of butterflies. They weren't afraid of flowers. They were afraid of the typical thing that we normally call attention to, courtesy of our fathers. We continue to share and showcase all these terrible things. Like, for an example, snakes. They all need to be destroyed. Really, I've crossed paths with many snakes recently, and I find that they have a place of value. Now, would it be concerning to have a venomous snake in my own garden? Well, that brings us back to the story of Adam and Eve. In that story, we find that perhaps we should have tended to our garden, but we didn't know what our opportunities were because we deferred the insight to a different form of authority than the one that we trusted as good and beneficial. It's a deep thought. It's a deep thought when you wrap your mind around it, to also understand that we are absolutely talking about giving thanks so fully that you can't avoid but hear these words. And if you're of the demonic, opportunistic, looking for an error type, then you will hear the Freudian slips. You will pin some kind of attention onto that fact that I said something, not really recognizing, well, neither of us are there right now witnessing the event as it occurred live. So whatever I'm saying and however I'm saying it, it's not the way that things should always be perceived. Sometimes knowledge is knowledge for knowledge's sake. If Adam and Eve were tempted by knowledge and they just knew that the knowledge was there and didn't take from it, didn't take the bait, then maybe there wouldn't have been the ensuing anxiety. So my cousin and I would talk about these deep topics. I've passed over a good number of droppings. This is the first time that I've passed through this park in a recent while and seen as many droppings. And so this is a good sign. It's a good sign, and this ties me back to the story and the direction I was trying to go into, and that is the topic of snakes. So a lot of us have a misconception that, oh, snake, we have to hate every snake. A lot of us have a misconception, oh, demon, we have to hate every demon. What if there are demons that went to the angelic side just as if there were angels who went to the dark side, to the demonic side? Is it possible? Might be possible. But we wouldn't know if we weren't there. And so to tell these stories, I'm showing you in video. In San Antonio, I was recording one of those long runs. You saw it. And there was a coral snake in front of me. Here in this place, I have recently had to search far and wide to find signs of life like that. They're here. And occasionally you can see the circumstances. You know, on the last trip that I took out here, I saw at least 3 road fatalities of snakes. One being a rattlesnake, whose rattle was cut off, by the way. And this is just an observation. There are, it seems, more wildlife varieties. I should say there's more, it's more rich. The wildlife seemed more rich where I was at, where I live. And here, where I'm at now, where I also live, in this particular location, I'm seeing signs of wildlife today on the road. So I wonder if during today's long run, if we're going to get treated to seeing something special. And it could be anything. I mean, I talk about the reptiles as kind of a health indicator. I talk about all of the species really as a health indicator. And I also talk about the fact that some of us become afraid when we hear wasps. When we see something. And it's not a criticism, because it happens to me. The things I was talking about, what if a scorpion falls onto your lap? That can happen out here. I was imagining it to perceive fear so that I could relay the story in the same way. So on this channel where we're learning together, some of us are hearing the confidence, the inspiration that's reverberating. And we're understanding that the health can be laser focused, and that this cat, this sharp cat up the road, down the road actually, this sharp cat down the road is telling you, if you're out here in nature, if you want to see miraculous transformation during your 7-day vegan challenge, don't forget, nature is nurture. And I don't know if you noticed that little movement back there. I just did it again. The clouds moved a little bit. There was a tarantula crossing the road. I couldn't stop. There was a car coming from the oncoming direction, but I was able to use all of my available space, almost encroaching onto the oncoming traffic's direction. But I was also able to move back out of that situation prior to where we would have been in contact, me and my opposing partner who witnessed this situation. That time it was a millipede. There was a millipede on the road, and I course corrected to avoid it. I witnessed the life on this road. I'm sure there are countless things that I do not see. But I saw the things that I was able to see. And because I continue to look for those signs of life, I'm able to continue to see them. For a period of time, I wasn't seeing them, but it wasn't because I was having or experiencing a loss in vision. Or maybe it was. Time will tell. What I'm here to say, though, is that as you pass through these lands, grateful for what it is that you're being presented with, well, you get presented with more of it. If you're in an entire society who's not doing their part, sometimes you have to inspire that society even outside of your own community, so that people can help. People can help send abundance in a reasonable amount, please. We don't need inundations of cash. We don't need inundations of water that flood the land in destructive ways. What we need is to observe the finer things, the details. Generally, it is so you can be so isolated out here that, as I said, I would be able to normally stop when that tarantula is crossing the road. So I could say, oh, check this out. I'll grab the phone, take it out there, show it to you. Because it's cool. These things are things that many people don't perceive. And I might want to help shuttle the creature across the road, depending on what it is and what's going on. Now, just the other day, a gentleman was struck and killed because he had stopped traffic to help a family of ducks across the road. Ducks or geese, I don't remember. What I do remember is that we've seen this scene over and over. Somewhere collectively in the group, there are people thinking, well, what if someone didn't stop? Or who cares about the duck? Who gives a duck? I heard that in my own corporate world. When someone made the headlines for shooting Cecil the lion. Cecil the lion was killed by essentially a poacher. You can Google this information. To me, that was a sad event. It's sad to be killing these things that people would love to see. I would love to see Cecil the lion and observe the mannerisms. I would love to see my cousin again and be able to talk with him and notice that I can help him to smile again. I would love it if seeing Cecil the lion would help me smile. I would love it if a mountain lion crossed the road right now and helped us all smile in a way where we could watch it walk over the horizon. I don't know where it landed, but there was some kind of a hawk that just landed. If I could have singled out where it landed, my point of the story here is that normally I'd be able to stop. My vehicle has an auto start feature. So if I stop the vehicle, it'll kill the engine. And then it's quiet. And you can hear cars approaching from miles away. And if you're fortunate, your perched place where you stop will have a pull-off right next to it. In so many cases, when I come upon wildlife, a deer. So I couldn't stay stopped forever, but I wanted to make a point. We're experiencing this real time. Since it's real time, the variables involved can be challenging, and it can be challenging to maintain concentration for long enough to focus, to laser focus on something. And what if all day long I was focusing on what the health I was doing? What if all day long I was focusing on what I was consuming? What if all day long all I was consuming are these yellow flowers? And I don't even mean that physically. I mean visually. And that is physically. What if I had this entire place to myself? And sometimes in the right current of energy, That is precisely what happens. I can pick the most popular location and be the only person in proximity of that deer that crossed on the trail with me. We can surprise each other because I'm so quiet as I'm moving through these areas. Spirituality has a lot to do with working on oneself. It has nothing to do with the things that we're doing because of the abundances that we're receiving. So if we have, let's say, an income of $100,000, let's just say it's something a basic IT position might warrant in your up economies. Say you're making $100,000, and let's say you give 20% of that to help feed the hungry. Let's say you give 100% of it. Well, then maybe you might be doing something selfless. But let's say you give 20%. And let's just say the hungry is unusually populated with the people who actually built the homes and labored all of the resources out of the areas to manufacture those computers that you're working on in your IT industry. Let's just say that there's a labor force that's barely making it by, and they're doing the back-breaking brunt of the work. There's paper towels on the pull-off right here. Let's say we're not paying attention to the things when we open the door and those plastics, the straws fall out. Let's say we don't pay attention to where that came from. It's because we don't cherish it. When we cherish something, we pay attention to it. I cherish this place. There's a mockingbird that just wanted to play a slow me down game. Because I think it saw me for a long distance. Maybe it knows something's in front of me. Something's coming up. And that's another thing I always get to do here. Since there's so much of a huge visual distance to be able to see one another. I just went around another millipede, by the way. To be able to see one another, I can see there's no one. There's no one behind me. I can stop if I need to. That gives me a margin of comfort because I know that there's safety. When I'm in the city, if I have to travel somewhere, even to go for my daily run, what I'm going to do is travel from point A to point B, much the same as I'm doing right now. It'll be a lot less time to get there, but there's almost always going to be other people. Even as isolated as I might feel, all of those other people are emanating a vibrational frequency and energy. If you run into an office place where everyone is hostile and been kept on hold, like my panel of peers, of juries were kept on hold, where we were kept on hold all the way until noon, when they said, okay, we're going to break for lunch. Hurry up and wait. That was a thing that I heard several times throughout that day. Just 2 days ago now. 2 days ago, when I didn't know I was going to be here for 9 nights, 8 nights now. Can you imagine looking up your favorite place, knowing that it's almost continually booked, and then find that you get one of the only places that has a shade tree for 9 nights? Talk about lucidity. I'm living in a moment where I can be completely aware of where I'm at. I see the purple, the fuchsia flowers, the yellow flowers, the purple tinged cactus. I see the mountains. I see the hillsides. I even see Santa Elena Canyon in front of me. You're getting a portion of the visual treat, and also this visual treat. And you're seeing a narrated story in a way that maybe is refreshing to you. So Again, today is June the 7th. I want to keep these episodes to about a half hour so that I can pique your interest. Keep in mind that some of this is going to be recorded in a different format. In other words, not in the car. So when you see your next 30-minute segment, hopefully it's a compilation of things that maybe even that I've seen from after and or during this long run until tomorrow's video. Who knows? Stay tuned. Until next time, I appreciate all of my subscribers. I appreciate all of my non-subscribers. I appreciate all of my friends and family who have helped to come to the assistance of this particular journey. The goals that I have, I'm not meaning to sound like it's a selfish thing to want to get my health back. I want to say that I can more effectively help to restore the health of many other people as I become healthier. And that's just a fact. And with those facts in mind, I hope that we are able to think about the journey of one another the same. I'm sending beautiful energy your way. I'm sending positive intent. You know, we hold a lot of titles and roles, and we mishandle a lot of values, but we shouldn't mishandle one another. So if you find that you're hearing someone, there's a lot of debris over this road. I'm on Burrow Spring Road. That means that this road was flooded. That means this road got washed out. That's insane. I can't believe that I've seen so much activity, so much beautiful rain in this area. And all of the flowers in abundance are helping the decreased wildlife numbers to at least have something to persist. So these are good signs. This is a, again, positive message. I hope that you're receiving it that way. And I can tell you are, because things have turned around considerably for me, and part of that also has to do with the energy that I'm consuming, you know, and some of us overlook those things for too many days in a row, and that diminishes our opportunities to manifest those positive energies back and forth. And so if we're gambling away errantly our health and not focusing it on where it goes, then maybe we're not really focused on nurturing even ourselves. So get out there and nurture yourself. Do everything you can. It looks like while I'm running, I should be able to see at least maybe another tarantula, something like that. No telling, but I'm gonna do my best to enjoy this while there is a moderate amount of cloud cover. It looks like it can be hit or miss. Looks like the clouds may burn off. But I'm hoping that it stays kind of shady throughout this entire experience. Whatever the case, again, until next time, thank you so much for watching. Coming up to another washout with large rocks. Wow, there's no telling what it looks like on the desert floor, but perhaps we'll find out. Until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.